I am obsessed with Obsession and Indy Neverett. Welcome back to my 2 cents, everyone, and today I'm going to be giving you my 2 cents on what is probably one of the best modern horror movies I have seen since falling in love with this genre a few years ago. Obsession by Curry Barker. Now, I don't know much about Curry Barker because I didn't watch any of his content before I watched Obsession, but after watching Obsession and watching some of his content, it's kind of crazy that the same guy that makes skits on the internet also made this horrifying horror masterpiece. But I guess that's becoming less uncommon now with films like Talk to Me and Iron Lung being made by comedic content creators. My hype for Obsession was literally the highest it could be. Thanks to content creators like Cody Leach recommending this movie like crazy, I walked into Obsession afraid that the film would not be able to reach my incredibly high expectations for it, but yet somehow it managed to exceed those high expectations. Starting off with the characters, we have Bear, played by Michael Johnston, who is both the main protagonist and main antagonist in some ways. Just like the rest of the cast of this movie, Johnston is a pretty unknown actor, and yet, like another cast member I'm going to talk about in a minute, he puts on an Oscar-worthy performance as this awkward guy that realizes that he is now trapped in a situation that he created. For roughly the first half of the movie, I actually considered Bear pretty normal, because like yes, he is awkward and a coward, but so am I. But once you get to the second half, he progressively gets less and less normal. But when you get put into a situation such as the situation that Bear is in, you don't exactly start thinking rationally. Now, I'm not defending Bear in any way. There are still a lot of things he does in this movie that are very fucked up. And from an outside perspective, a lot of the things that Bear does in this movie can seem stupid. But when you put yourself in Bear's mind and in his situation, I would almost respond in my head the same way that Bear would in the film. There is so much more I want to say about Bear, but I'm going to save my full thoughts on him for a future spoiler review. So let's talk about Bear's love interest and who should receive an Oscar for Best Actress, Indy Neverett as Nikki. She's beautiful, she's sweet, and yet she's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Not to mention in real life, she's for the boys. I can see why Bear was so obsessed with her. Anyway, I can't praise this performance and this character enough. The way that Nikki switches between different personalities throughout the film is incredibly creepy, and the whole reason why this might be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. All her little subtle quirks and changes throughout the film are so brilliantly portrayed, and throughout most of the movie, you actually think she could be fine. Like, yeah, of course, she's extra clingy and does a few weird things, but for the most part, she still seems fine. She's just a little quirky. But that all changes after a certain scene. Indy just knocks it out of the park with this performance, and I really hope that by some miracle she can receive an Oscar for this performance. I say by some miracle because a lot of the times, except I guess for last year, horror films get entirely ignored at the Oscars. And considering this was an indie film, it might be even more overlooked, which is totally unfair, but unfortunately that is kind of the truth. I wish that Indy Neverett would get an Oscar for Obsession and love me in a normal, healthy way. I love seeing all these fan theories online about her and Bear, and I wish I could go more in depth about those theories, but I want to keep this a spoiler-free review so that you can go watch this movie just as blind as I was. The rest of the cast is great. I love Ian and Sarah, but a lot of the important stuff I really want to talk about in regards to their characters would delve into spoiler territory, so I'm just going to save my full thoughts on them for later. Overall, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better cast to play these characters, and I have zero complaints about the characters. Now, the story of Obsession goes that a guy named Bear likes this girl and doesn't have the courage to tell her how he feels. So in a moment of desperation and stupidity, he wishes that Nikki would love him more than anything. And of course, he gets way more than he bargained for. Obviously, there's much more to the story, but again, I want you to go in as blind as possible, in hopes that you'll actually go watch Obsession. The best part about this story is how smart the writing is and all the little details that they leave throughout the film. that really add to the terror of this situation. Like, I really just want to go watch this movie again so I can look for all the little details that I know that I have missed. Also, from start to finish, this movie never lets off the gas. It continues to terrify you with each reveal and each twist, and my god, what a masterful ending. That's when I pulled the whole Martin Scorsese pose, because the ending starts off good, and if it sticked with that ending, I still would have been perfectly happy. But then something happens at the end that makes this ending so much better and adds to the tragedy of it all. God, now I really do have to make a spoiler review on it because I could gush about this movie for hours. Now, since there aren't many kills in Obsession, and I want to try to keep this a non-spoiler review, I'm going to put a spoiler alert on screen for the Blood Money segment. So if you have not watched Obsession, which you totally should, then skip to this time in the video and come back to this segment after you've watched Obsession. Have they clicked off yet? Okay, so obviously the Blood Money Award goes to Sarah. I mean, during that whole scene in the parking lot, you can kind of see the kill coming, but it still manages to shock you in the execution. It's so brutal and terrifying. And when Bear gets back to his house and sees what Nikki has done with her body, it makes the kill all the more brutal. Nikki literally tore her skin and hair off and started wearing her clothes to look like her. Oh, and from what I've heard, Sarah's kill was actually supposed to be longer and even more gory. I love the way that my friend Alex described the entity that possesses Nikki. He said it's like whatever took over Nikki cannot grasp the concept of love and only knows how to be obsessed with Bear. Overall, guys, I mean, what else is there to say other than this is the best modern horror movie I have watched since I fell in love with the horror genre in 2022. It's terrifying, it's smart, it's funny, you actually care about the characters, and the soundtrack and all the different sound effects are great. The one thing that I do want to say about Obsession that does not affect my ranking or my experience in any way is I don't think this film is going to be as rewatchable for me just because of how terrifying it is. But if anything, that's just another reason to love it. I am anxiously waiting to see more from Curry Barker in the future with his Texas Chainsaw reboot and his next film, Anything But Ghosts. Curry Barker, sir, you have my full attention and support. I'm just so happy that this year has had so many indie releases that have turned into success stories. From Iron Lung beating a Disney distributed horror movie at the box office, to Obsession making more money than a Star Wars movie at the box office, and more recently with The Backrooms making $100 million in one weekend. The future of the horror genre to me has never looked more bright, and I really hope that this trend continues. So if I have somehow not sold you on Obsession already, I urge you to just go check out this movie in theaters, just to support this film so that others like it can be made and we can send a message to Hollywood that indie films are what we want, and to support the cast and crew so that they can go on to do bigger and better things. I am so excited to see where Indy Navret's career goes from here because it can only go up. It's my favorite movie of 2026 and it is absolutely worth paying double for. You know I'm waiting for that 4K release. And that's my review of Obsession. Thank you guys so much for watching my review of Obsession. Shout out to Cody Leach for liking and reposting my out of theater reaction to Obsession. That really meant a lot to me, and if you happen to stumble across this video, Cody, thank you for being one of my biggest inspirations for starting this channel in the first place, and for bringing this masterpiece to my attention, because I probably would not have actually watched Obsession if I didn't see all your videos recommending this movie. Anyways, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Go watch Obsession, and I will see you guys very soon.